Greetings to all of you. I'm about to show you an interview that I did with Lisa Denning and Hydee Tehana, who have co-produced an extraordinary film entitled Ocean. This film, and I'll put the link below, is a documentary about the life of Joan Ocean. And for those of you who don't know her work, Joan Ocean is an extraordinary pioneer. She and her partner, Jean-Luc Bozzoli, joined together to start an organization called Dolphin Connection to explore the advancement of human consciousness, biophysics, and spirituality through films, books, art, and through taking people on journeys to actually swim and experience being in relationship with, in communication, and communion with dolphins and whales. I had the extraordinary experience many years ago of being with one of her group and being in this profound process of meditating, attuning to the dolphins and whales, swimming with them, honoring their wisdom and their guidance to us in this profound time of change. And this film gives you that experience. It guides you through Joan's life and what she has learned from the dolphins and whales and what they do have to offer us in this time. Joan has written two books, Dolphin Connection and Dolphins into the Future, and is currently working on another book. She's in her 80s and has, for over 40 years, been doing this work and guiding others in having these extraordinary experiences in the ocean with the whales and dolphins, helping us remember who we are, why we're here, how to come back into right relationship with all that is. The film also features the artwork of Jean-Luc, extraordinary multidimensional artwork that also is an honoring of his deep communion with the dolphins, with the whales, with the oceans, with the forests, with the natural world. So these are pioneers who are helping us remember how to come back into right relationship with the earth, to remember our oneness with all that is. And Hydee and Lisa are continuing that work in their own leading of trips to connect people to the whales and dolphins, and they describe their journey of doing this film and honoring their years of friendship and experience with Joan Ocean. So I highly recommend that you see the film. And as we do this interview, we were doing the interview in the midst of a thunderstorm here in my area. So there are sections of the video where the synchronization between the audio and video isn't exact, but the audio is clear, and the information and insights that Hydee and Lisa have to share with us are truly profound. Enjoy the interview. Blessings and love to all of you. Greetings, everyone. I'm very excited today to be in conversation with Lisa Denning and Hydee Tehana about their amazing film Ocean and their work with dolphins and whales. And I'm really excited to be in this conversation with you both about your film, about your work, and about your connection with Joan Ocean. So we'll get into all of that. But let me briefly introduce you two first. Lisa is an adventurer, photographer, producer, and describes herself as a water being. She's been photographing and filming dolphins and whales for the last 25 years and has traveled and worked with her dear friend Joan Ocean for many years. She and Hydee co-produced the film Ocean, and Lisa was the videographer for the film, which documents the life of Joan Ocean and her years, 40 years of experience with dolphins and whales. Hydee was a firefighter and paramedic in Southern California for over 20 years, while also becoming a therapist. and now is an author, producer, guide, and leads dolphin and whale retreats with Lisa. So welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here.
So let's start with talking about your film. I've seen it. It's an extraordinary film. And it's so powerful, not only in sharing about Joan Ocean's life, her work, your own experiences with the dolphins and whales, but it's so much about their wisdom and what they have to bring to us. But talk a little bit about the film and how you got into doing that.
Uh, well, I'll share and then you can jump in there.
Sure.
The film was really divinely orchestrated, and I know it's something that Lisa wanted to do for many, many years, and she's got all this great footage of Joan and the dolphins and whales and all kinds of stuff, and it was interesting because as we worked together, we were thinking that the movie needed to be like, a Hollywood film. And what we were led to was it needed to be a documentary. And when we really tapped in, it was the dolphins and whales that were speaking to us, saying, talk about us from a point of our consciousness and what we're here to share and how we're helping humanity raise their consciousness, raise their vibration at this time. And we just really just let go of the whole idea of, okay, how does this want to be presented? And then talking to Joan Ocean and then her husband, John Luke, Joan was just ecstatic about, yes, that's how I want to present this. I want to, because it just came in as it needs to be about Joan and her life and the humanity part of it in conjunction with the dolphins and whales. And so we just let her speak about her life and just recorded and recorded and recorded all of this amazing stories that Joan has had. I mean, because she's really a pioneer in this field of bringing people to swim with the dolphins, swim with the whales, channeling their consciousness. Who are they? What are they doing here? And for us, it was such a gift to just listen and participate, and then to have her husband John Luke, who does amazing art, and I mean, he's out of this world as well, and to bring in the multidimensional galactic world that he lives in through Mother Nature, it was just, you could see how the two of them really synchronistically came in together. And as we started to do the film, it was great to just see how it all opened up because we just kept giving it lots of space. So it's a wonderful film about Joan and John Luke with the dolphins and whales and how they weave the energies. And it's a 4-part film, and it's a deep dive into to reminding us who we are. So
Yeah, it's something that, like Hydee said, came about organically for us. I met Joan when I was 23, when I had just moved to the island, kind of wanting to explore my own connection with the dolphins and these ocean beings. And she and I formed this instant connection, friendship, bond, whatever it was. Kind of, we realized we were kind of looking for each other on some level. And we started traveling together, and she invited me to work with her. And that's where my photography started, to really take off, and documenting these unique connections that were happening in the water between humans and cetaceans. And working with Joan and helping to facilitate her seminars with her and assisting people in the water, I was watching these stories unfold of how much people's lives would change after being in the water with these beings, from physical conditions, emotional conditions, just you name it. People were seeing things from a different perspective after having these encounters with these beings. And I was fascinated by that. And over the years, just watching Joan consistently just sharing from her heart, just being in her joy, people learning from her just from who she was and how she lived her life. And it felt like Hydee said, this wasn't something to turn into really a Hollywood version of that, which was the initial attraction from some producers, to really hone in on, her life is magical as it is. And she really wanted to know that she had the freedom to share her stories, her truth, her wisdom, without filter. And it was one of those things where for me, I started to see all the pieces of my life start to make sense and why I was in certain places with her, the experience we've had, what we were doing, because we really had all of the visuals and all of the film and interaction with her and photographs that we needed to tell this story. So we didn't have to go outside and purchase things. We could really create it within our own little family here, with Hydee and I and Jean-Luc and Joan. It was such a sweet process to do with them, and to just laugh our way through it and create it with joy and edit along the way with what really felt good for them to share in this way. And as she said, to have something to leave behind that really tells so much truth and joy and offers, so much. And we're hearing that people are watching it over and over and over because it's so layered. And even us, when we watch again, we hear different things, and we've watched it a lot, like, oh, that's right, there's that part. And, there's just, there's so much in there, it feels like, for people to hear, to learn, to witness, but also experience through what she shares.
That's a very good way to put it, Lisa, because you really enter into a whole experience watching the film. And it does take you deeper and deeper, deeper into not only her story, but particularly deeper into understanding the energy and consciousness of the dolphins and the whales. And she talks so beautifully about their role in trying to help us wake up and help us move into higher consciousness. And she talks so much about they're emanating this energy of love and non-judgment. And, in our earlier conversation, you both shared how much Joan also emanated that with the groups that she would help connect with the whales and dolphins to be in whatever their own unique experience was as they were swimming with the dolphins and whales. But you mentioned, Lisa, about the healing nature of many of those encounters, and you had your own healing experience with them. Can you talk some about that?
Sure. The dolphins are something, like, I've been drawn to them since I was really, really little. There was some kind of a special connection there that I knew there was something there for me. And when I was going through a really challenging time in my life, I was in recovery from an eating disorder. I had a chance to go on a retreat where part of the experience was to be with dolphins. And in this experience, my first experience, I got into the water, and one particular dolphin swam over to me and just stopped next to me, looking at me. And I was just staring into the eye of this dolphin. And I realized for the first time in my life, I was experiencing stillness and presence in that expanded state. I mean, back then I wouldn't have had these words for it, but now I understand it more. But it was just this, there was nothing else there but presence. And after that experience, I thought, what was that? That's what I need to find more of, whatever that is, however I can find that. And of course, it had happened with the dolphins. So I started researching and exploring, what that was. And that was how I came across Joan's book, and realized that, oh, okay, there's someone else that kind of understands this and has had these experiences. And for me, that led to, there was such a draw from my heart to explore that I ended up, quitting my job, leaving everything and packing a bag and moving to Hawaii, where I knew that there were dolphins that you could swim out from the beach and go just to go and be with them and see kind of what would happen. So for me, I thought this is my next level of healing. I had done a lot of work and talking and shit, and that part that we're used to. And I knew there was something much deeper. And the day that I landed here, that next morning, I went out and swam, and this huge pod of dolphins just came and surrounded me, and we swam for hours out there. And this happened daily for me for a long, long, long time. And it was here where I was experiencing getting to know myself on a deeper level through the reflection of that presence that I had experienced that first time was there all the time, every day, if I chose to go into it. And there's that reflection, and they were teaching me things. And, there's something about that space that they offer that if we can meet them there, naturally healing will occur in our bodies at that level. Some people ask, oh, I hear the dolphins heal people, or, have all of these very dramatic healing experiences after being with the dolphins. And while I do believe that they have that capability with their sonar and with their sounds, that they could choose to directly heal people, and I think that they do, I think more often what happens is that we allow ourselves to get into that space of love and non-judgment and joy and that higher vibration, and that ripple effect in our body is what creates a lot of that healing on those levels. That makes sense.
Oh, that's beautifully said, Lisa. Beautifully said. It's, it's almost as if they're reading the person's frequency. And Joan Ocean describes how they remind us who we are and why we're here. So it's almost like they're reading our frequency and what's out of balance to remind us who we are and how to come back into right harmony, right balance with ourselves. And then everything changes with that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I
Well
think
said.
for some reason, for many people, it can feel safer to start that experience with an animal. There's so much healing with dolphins, with horses, with other animals, that's a good starting point for many people, while we're learning to do it with each other, to have that kind of eye contact and that space that we can create. They're teaching us to bring that onto land, and so much is possible through that space.
They're really bringing us back to our true essence. I mean, and that's what I think too, like when you're talking about the stillness part, you're just reminding me, we just got back from doing a couple weeks of retreats in the Bahamas in a place called Bimini. And one day we were out there on the water, and there was this stillness, even to the point where some of the group were like, what is going on out here? And we all were kind of tuning in, and then all of a sudden here comes the spotted dolphins, and they're mimicking this stillness, and the boat slowed down, the dolphins were just really slow, and the group, we started just matching their energy and just were super, super still, to the point we just were in that still place with them, which I think is so expansive when you can do that, to the point where eventually they stopped. We stopped the boat, got in the water with them, and literally the dolphins were vertical, still. And all the people in the group just matched the energy, and we just circled them, and we're still. To me, that's just magic. Like, what a gift that is. There's just really no words to describe that.
That is so
depth of that.
beautiful, so beautiful. And, in my own experience swimming with the dolphins and with what Joan describes, I experience them as such evolved beings. And Joan talks a lot about how they really mirror back to us the oneness of all that is. And it's like, we were talking about this before, I really feel with the whales that they hold the memories of Mother Earth and of the oceans and our source here. And so in being in the water, we all know about Veda Austin's work and the how the water holds that consciousness and memories. And then the whales are, and the dolphins are communicating that back to us to help us remember, help us come back into balance. But it feels like they are really operating at a higher vibration and a higher level of consciousness to try to help us heal and move into higher consciousness in this profound time on the planet. That they're playing such a key role in guiding us in our own process.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like every year more and more people are being drawn to be with them. There's the people that regularly want to be with them and feel that connection, but every year there's more people that are showing up and saying, I've felt this for so long and now is the time. I can't wait longer. I need to be with them. And I think we were talking last time too, how as the energy increases on the planet and the intensity that we're all feeling lately, the interactions with them are also matching that. Like you said, like they're showing up I mean, they're always very gentle, but it feels like the energy that they're giving off and the urgency and connection and kind of downloads that we get or the sounds that they're making are, for lack of a better word, like more intense as well. They're wanting to be closer. They're wanting to make sure we're getting it. It seems that could be a projection, but there's just this. More whales are showing up here, more species of whales to be with people and more numbers. And it's just interesting to watch that and see, okay, yep. They're really here to help us.
And say more about what it means, their multidimensional way of being. Because Joan talks a lot about that. And Heidi, you were just mentioning that. It's like they really are moving between different realms or realities.
Absolutely. For me, I feel like I came in knowing a lot of that stuff, which I feel like a lot of us come in knowing that stuff, that we exist in many different dimensions and many different, you could say frequencies. It's kind of like I look at how some people see the fairies and the elves and different things. Well, they're just in a different frequency. And if you raise your, vibration to that frequency, you see them. And it's not good or bad. I look at, we're in a lower vibration and, it's all just different places where we can reside. And I feel like, the dolphins are really reminding us that we're in a human reality and an earth reality. There's many, many, many more realities out there. There's many, many other places where we exist. It's like way I look at it is I feel like we put a whole bunch of limits on ourselves to experience this 3D duality world. And we're at a point in time where the cycles are shifting. And so that denseness and that limitations has come so, dense. And now it's time to we're expanding back out. And I really feel like that's with the sonar, with the being in the water, the salt crystals of the ocean, it's expanding us. It's the reminding us, wait a second, I don't just exist in this reality. I exist in many other different realities. And now how do I play with that? And so that's what I feel like they're reminding us. How can we be open and curious into who are we? What if there's other worlds? What if there's other realities? What if there's, how do I play with that? Because I mean, and especially out here in Hawaii, we'll be out swimming and all of a sudden they disappear right in front of you. And it's like, where did they go? And there's definitely portals and different, all over the world, and but you could see that you'll hear certain sounds that they make and all of a sudden they're gone. And the way that I see it, and I don't know if this is how you feel too, you've been with them for many, many years, but it's like they just became invisible because they went to a higher vibration. They're still right there because you could feel them, but they're just in a different frequency. So sometimes when we're in that, we match their frequency, and then all of a sudden you can't find another person out, and you're thinking, oh, where did they go? And it's like, well, I'm out here all by myself with the dolphins. Where is everybody? You're just in a different vibration and a different frequency, right? So I guess that's how I see the multidimensionality is like, wow, it's just reminding us how expansive can we be? Where do we want to reside? Because we really go up and down in vibration all day, right? Depending on what's coming at us. And I really feel like the dolphins and whales are really teaching us how do you stay centered and really become that creator of our reality.
Well said.
Very powerful. And maybe in that sense, guiding us in how to be changing our frequencies so that we can be in this ascension process with the earth, who's also in her own transformational process and shifting frequencies. So it's almost as if they're trying to be mentors or guides to us to help us through this transition. And
Mhm.
Joan also talks about that they communicate, as you were both saying, not only telepathically, but through their sonar, through their sounds, activating our cellular intelligence and activating our DNA. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, I think that that's a subject that there's so many layers and so many people are fascinated with that right now, really wanting to learn more about sound and frequency and vibration. And I do think that they are masters of this. And there are sounds they are making that we cannot hear with our ears on the surface. And I heard some recordings. I was out with a friend who was doing sound recordings way down deep where we couldn't go. And the sounds down there were just a whole nother level. And it's the same with the whales, the sounds that they record down in the deepest parts of the Mariana Trench and the deepest places in the ocean. But for me personally, with the sounds in the sonar, it's I experience it different all the time. I think depending on where I am in my own being and process, but it's really powerful. Most people can feel it physically in their body when they're getting what we call when you're getting sonared or getting zapped by their sonar in different places. I had an experience once in the water where I was swimming and a, a dolphin came up to me, a spinner dolphin here on my side, and gave me this look, which is a look that I came to know of like, get ready kind of thing, or something was about to happen. And he turned his head towards me, and he was as close as Hydee is now, turned his head toward me and blasted this sound into my head, and then looked at me and then did it again, did it 3 times. And it was so loud, the captain on the boat, because afterwards I was a little bit like, whoa, and then just took off, just took off and left me there. We were swimming and I was, taking care of a group, and the captain on the boat was like, what happened? Like, what was that? He could hear it up on the boat, the sounds. And I remember that day I got home and I just had to lay down, and I laid down really still, and I could physically feel things rearranging in my brain and stuff going up the back of my spine into my head. And I just kept hearing like, just, be still, like just let the process happen. And I mean, I still don't have words for what was really happening, but I know that they are intentionally working with us with sound. And also when we're just swimming out there and we're surrounded by their sounds, things are happening like that. And that's with the dolphins and the whales. It's a whole nother level of what they're doing. And, I think Joan mentioned it in her film too, with the whales. We've had times with the whales where we're floating right over them when they're singing. And most often they're facing down into the earth when they're singing, not all of the time, but a lot of the time. But those sounds are vibrating up, and it's the most powerful experience with sound I've ever had. And it's people are either like laughing hysterically, crying, a combination of both. Things just move, and it's such a otherworldly, joyful experience to feel in your body. And the times where I'm in there for hours, sometimes just recording sounds, I physically can't get myself back on the boat because everything's just kind of like jello. And I think they're doing so much more than we can comprehend, working with frequencies of the earth and communicating for miles and miles and miles with all of the ocean beings. And it affects, there's been studies shown that it affects things happening on land when whales are passing by and making sounds. Electronics on land are being affected. There's some funny stories about that going on. So it's powerful what's happening, and feel so grateful to be able to experience it.
It reminds me too of how you said Veda Austin's work with the whales and the water. I'm sorry, with the water, and how she told a story in one of your interviews where the whales were go by and would communicate with the trees on the land. And it's like Mother Nature is communicating all the time. And it's really feels like, as you're saying, we're bringing humanity back into Mother Nature, and we're taking our place, not above, but part, and yeah, it's like we're really, like you said, rearranging ourselves to remembering.
And it's so amazing that interface that can happen. I mean, I also feel that the elephants on the land hold some of the ancient memories of the earth, and they're so sensitive to vibration, and they communicate at this very low frequency level, most of which we can't hear. I often feel like they're in communication and communion with the whales in the ocean, and the elephants are holding that energy on the land. But like you're saying, it feels like they're really tuning into the energies of the earth and supporting this transition that we're in. And it's extraordinary to me that whales, like you were saying, if they're at those deeper levels in the ocean, their songs can travel as far as 10,000 miles.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's their frequency and what they're emanating is really activating the waters and everything that is in the ocean, and as well as our own experience with them.
Absolutely. Good.
You're just reminding me of like what we noticed even in the last couple weeks when we were in the Bahamas with the dolphins. It's like whatever intentions and limitations we want to let go of, just being in that frequency of not just the ocean, but then with the dolphins and that frequency that they hold, it's activating that potential that exists within all of us. It's like, I think about, like the acorn and becoming an oak tree, everything that giant tree needs is right there in that little seed. And everything that we need is already right inside of us. And we tend to look externally for things, but I feel like that's what the dolphins and whales are mirroring back to us in Mother Ocean and all of nature is look inside, go within. The more we can do that and be in those higher frequencies, we're being activated all the time to wow, oh, I didn't see it that way. Like our beliefs are all being challenged. The way we perceive the world is being like, do you want to keep that limitation or do you want to let it go? It's like, what is that author Richard Bach? He says, argue for your limitations and sure enough, they're yours. It's like, wow, we can really let go of so much if we choose to right now.
And I sometimes think it's funny. We talk about how as humans, we think we're so intelligent and all this stuff and trying to study nature and study animals to try and protect them and rescue them and do this and do that. And if we really sat back and observed and watched, like they've got it. They're the ones that are helping us if we pay attention. They have the knowledge that we need to pay attention to and listen to. Without human interference, they're all fine. The bees are amazing until we spray chemicals. The whales are doing great until we're harming. Like it's just such an interesting thing that we think we need to study them and figure it out and know their language and figure it. And like saying, if we could just listen, be quiet and listen and observe, like we're the ones that need to learn from them at this point. you know, it's what it feels like to me that they, you know, nature is desperately trying to show us,
Oh, so
you know,
true.
how
It's, I often say the plants are trying to heal us, and the animals and the cetaceans and all, they're trying to remind us how of their wisdom and that understanding of interconnectedness and interdependence. That if
Yes.
we can get back in balance, then we can be a part of that whole ecosystem that's in balance. And they really are trying to guide us back into that right relationship. And it's critical that we wake up to that so that we humans can get off this path of destruction and come back into right harmony. And it seems like they, as you said, it's almost like their message is ramping up to try to help us wake up and heal and transform. But you've talked about, and Joan talks also about her own experiences with extraterrestrials and their connection with the whales and the dolphins, and how they're also trying to support us in this transition time. Can you say some about your sense of that?
Let's see. I feel like we have so much help out there. Um, um, I know, and there's lots of people out there that have experience with other groups of beings. I mean, it's almost like the dolphins and whales really are extraterrestrials too. They're not on land, so they're extraterrestrial. And in my own experience, I mean, I've seen and work with different groups of I call them light beings, and they, say that they're from different worlds and different planets, and they're all here guiding us and helping us. And I know Joan in her movie tells a great story about how they were in Silverbank and off the Dominican Republic, and a giant spaceship shows up, and it's like many of the group connected with it, but it's like some people couldn't even put it to words, like, what is that? And it's like we don't have a foundation to say, oh, that's a spaceship, or that's, so I mean, it's like they're there helping expand our consciousness, and they're working, with the whales to bring in more higher frequencies into the planet Earth, because we're at that transition of many cycles, the old cycle falling away and the new one here. And so yeah, there's so much help out there right now, and it's us just expanding and letting go of, like, okay, what else is out there, being curious. And that's why I think Mother Nature is so grounding and so important, because just going into a forest, being in the water, leaning up against a tree, all those kinds of things, they're saying the same thing that the galactic, extraterrestrials are saying as well. Because there's a lot of us that feel like we're not from Earth, and that we're here to help during this cycle and here to experience this Earth reality. I know my daughter came in, our daughter, she's, an adult now, but when she was young, she would tell me, Mom, I'm not from this place. Bad things happen to you here. And I remember thinking, what do you mean? This was when she was really young. And she says, where I'm from, bad things don't happen to you. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I have completely forgotten who I am, where I'm from. I was like, teach me, remind me, and she would say, oh, I'm from the Sparkle Planet. And I thought, wow, there's so many young generational beings right here, humans, that are here to just shine their light and hold that frequency and to be that joy. And it's like, that's what the dolphins exude, is just play and fun and joy. And I think, gosh, there's so many distractions in the world. How do we really master our frequencies to hold that vibration too? I mean, that's what I feel like they're teaching us too. It's like, don't focus on the system that's there. How do we create a new system that we want to really live and play in?
And I think Joan's always been a great example of that, at least for me in my life, of not protesting or pushing against or that part, but like what brings us joy and what do we want to create, and focusing on that, like you said, like what what's our next thing here, and how can we create that together, and putting the energy towards that, like staying positive, not ignoring or pretending like the other stuff doesn't exist,
Right.
but not feeding it. How are we, going to create the world that we know is possible, or co-create together, and with our ocean friends and galactic friends and forest friends and all of that. She holds such a strong vibration for that, and helping others to come to that place as well and remember.
Well, and like you're both saying, the way in which the whales and dolphins emanate that love and joy, it calls us into that higher frequency and into that higher consciousness, and their lack of judgment. So then they're really supporting us in coming back into harmony, to be able to emanate that with each other and to get out of that realm of duality and polarization and conflict. So it feels like they are so trying to guide us in how we can be in that transformational process in this critical time on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's beautifully said.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I mean, I know Joan is so excited to have this movie out because, I mean, it's her whole life, and it shares the sounds of the dolphins and whales, the visuals of it. So it's like you're experiencing it in the water and feeling it, And so I know when she watched it, she was just in tears because she's just like, this is what I've wanted to put out there, because it's like people that can't come and swim, or they can experience it right there, just watching it, feeling it, hearing the stories, getting the vibrations from it. And I mean, she's in her 80s now, and just this radiant, beautiful being. And to have John Luke's artwork in there, just it takes you into a whole nother realm, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm putting the link to the film below so people can access the film now. And then you're having a big
Great.
opening event in Hawaii in September. Can you talk some about that?
Mm-hmm. Sure. We're having calling it the Hawaii film premiere for Joan. And it's here in the community where so many of us have moved here because of Joan, and to swim with the dolphins and be in community together. It's at a local theater here, the Aloha Theater, on September 15th. And there are tickets available online, and I just feel like it's going to be such a beautiful experience to share the film together there with Joan, and then she's going to offer like a Q&A after the show, so people can interact with her and ask her questions, and John Luke, he'll be there as well. And just it just feels like a beautiful way to come together and celebrate her
Mm.
and her life's
Yes.
work and all that she's given. She gives so much. And for us to come together and celebrate that, it feels really good. So we're looking forward to it.
Beautiful. And I know you two are continuing to do trips where you're supporting people in their own experiences with the whales and dolphins, and I'll include your websites below. Do you have any trips that are coming up soon?
Yeah.
We have right now we've got a couple trips for next year planned. We're gonna go to the back to the Bahamas and Bimini again. So be with the spotted dolphins, and then we have a trip or a retreat here in Hawaii where we'll do 3 days in the water and then 2 days on our farm. So we have a 7 acre farm. You might have heard our chickens earlier. But it helps bring people back into Mother Nature, be with the trees, be with the animals, and to really just connect and ground in. And then we also, when we're in the water, you're with the manta rays, you're with the pilot whales, you're with just Mother Ocean, whatever beings want to interact with us, the dolphins and whales. So it's yeah, we have a couple weeks. That's in February, and then I think the Bimini trip is in July or August. And so when we're putting together some whale trips right now that we'll put on our websites as well. So yeah, those are some of the things that we're offering right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you both for being in this conversation. Thank you for the beautiful work that you're doing and this extraordinary film.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for giving us the opportunity to share.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Well, blessings to you both, and blessings and love to all of you listening.
Thank you.